Welcome, my dear audience and friends, to another monthly episode of Cancer Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. Thank you all so much, as usual, for supporting us on this channel and making sure that our advocacy, sees the light of day. This is what we do. We've been doing this for 6 years, and we're ever so grateful for the new members and the existing ones in trying to see that our mission is fulfilled. Now, imagine looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. That's the daily reality for one man who made history as the first African American to receive a face transplant. You want to know more about him? Well, then, let me introduce Robert Chelsea, who has spent the last 4.5 years with someone else's face. But for the entire experience, he is truly grateful. So, my dear audience and friends, let me welcome Robert Chelsea from Paramount, California, to the show. Welcome, Robert, and thank you so much for coming on. God bless you. As someone who has survived, a great deal of trauma, you are so blessed to be sitting here with us, to be able to have this interview, and we are so honored to have you too. Share briefly your story.
I was, about 11 years ago, in terms of my accident, or what I refer to as an incident, I was on a freeway in the Los Angeles area about 10 o'clock at night, and a drunk driver was swerving over some of the lanes. My car had overheated, so I was on the shoulder of the freeway. And he drove right onto the shoulder and ran straight into me. As a result of that, my car went up in the air, and when it landed, when it came down, a few seconds later, it blew up. So when it blew up, I attempted to get out toward the left and felt like a long tunnel of fire was there, and I was going through it, but it was only a step or two away. Fortunately, a friend, as you mentioned, hung in to support people. This Samaritan happened to be there helping me out. And of course, we're friends now, myself, my family, and his family. He's been to our church 2 or 3 times as well. So we've become pretty close. But he assisted me to, we checked out the guy to see if he was okay, the driver. And then he said he tried to take my arm to help me get to a safe area. And he said my arm was melting. So you can see my
Was
hand.
melting. Yeah.
And
Wow.
my diver skin, my nails, they grow the way that other person's nails grow. And that was before my transplant. This is all for the burn.
Before.
And I was still conscious, so I told the emergency people who to call and so on. Then I laid on the gurney in the ambulance, and I caught myself resting so that I would just wait for somebody to pick me up once we got to the hospital and check me out. Now, I had no idea that I was so severely burned. My lips were burned off, part of my tongue was burned off, and as well as the rest of my body. So anyway, I woke up from that gurney. I woke up 6 months later. I was in a coma that long.
Wow.
And that's when the majority of the surgeries took place. When I came out of the coma, there's parts of my fingers and toes had become gangrene, and my head they had to regraft my head. So that we went into other surgeries, and eventually it took about 3.5 years where I was recovering from the burns. So I kind of looked like a Halloween mask, and we went to a lot of plastic surgeons to see if they could do anything, and unanimously they all said that they could put a flap on my lips to protect my lips and gum, but there would be no control to be able to move my lips around. So one plastic surgeon felt that he wanted to talk with his friend who had studied under eventually the surgeon that worked with me. His name was Dr. Bolden Tomahawk. And they contacted me, and from that point on, I began that journey of being qualified. I was already 64 years old when we started looking at transplant, face transplant. But the cutoff date was actually 50 years old at that time. So I not only became quite a bit older than any of the others, but of course I'm the first Black to receive a full face transplant.
Mhm. Oh, wow. You've really come through the fire, as they say. You've risen through it like the phoenix. Um, Something I wanted to ask you, how, as regards the transplant, how were how did you get donors for? Because you said the lips, your face, everything belongs to others, right? Um,
My hands are cadaver skin. That was uh, in 2000 put on cadaver skin hands, but I didn't get the face transplant until
okay.
2009. As a
2019.
month will be 5 years. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So how was it done? I mean, was it a skin graft from, somebody else, or was it part of your skin that they used? I could
No,
you?
they didn't. They actually stripped my face. There was a team that stripped my face, what was left of my face.
Hmm.
And another team in another state altogether stripped the donor's face. And then a team flew from Brigham Women's Hospital to the hospital where the donor was and procured it and came back. And then they sold every bit, like my hair, this is his hair.
Yes.
All of this is his. The hair, the chin, the forehead, nose, lips, chin, cheeks. So it all he put. Of course, they had to sew
Hmm.
the blood vessels, the nerve endings, the muscles, uh, the ligaments, the tendons. They had to sew all of that onto my face.
Hmm. Wow. And th this was a series of surgeries, obviously, could not have been, done in one sitting. So
Yes,
did yes, please.
it was done in one setting. It
Oh,
was a
really?
16-hour surgery.
Oh my goodness, to get everything done.
Well, the stripping was done before,
Okay.
stripping on my face, stripping on his, going to get procuring the donor's face and all that was done, earlier that night. And within 3 hours, they had to start working on putting the donor's face onto me. So it took about 45 different uh, positions, and 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 it was roughly 16 hours surgery.
Oh, wow.
When I
Wait,
came out, there was no bandages on me at all.
oh,
Just my face swollen, but other than that, it was uh, it was completely on. Uh, and my face now is still not as tight as it would be on a normal person's because this portion is loose. Certain portions that it's not able to tighten it. And of course, his face wasn't the same size as mine.
mhm.
His happened to be larger, so they had to, do some adjustments with that.
Yes, but regardless, compared to the pictures I saw, and looking at you now, I'm telling you, a great deal has been done. It's so wonderful, honestly. I'm so happy. One thing I wanted to find out also was, did your body reject any of the organs that, like your skin,
Yeah.
was there any rejection, so to speak?
Yes, what happens is when after the sewing is all done, then the nerve endings, the blood vessels, they don't all work.
Hmm.
Because when you're a burn survivor, a lot of your vessels and muscles and the tendons and nerve endings, they're seared. So they're blocked. There's no way to connect them.
Hmm.
Uh, so uh, I really forgot your question. What was
No,
it?
rejection.
Oh yeah, rejection.
Did your body reject?
Yeah, as a result of all these uh, nerve endings and so on not working,
Yes.
there's a tendency for rejection.
Hmm.
there's a big difference between a face transplant and a liver, lung, kidney, and so on, because with those organs, you can take one out and put another one in. With this, I have another forehead. It has its own, if I had a transplant, just the forehead alone, it would have its own medication and own treatment. And then when you have cheeks, now it's got its own attitude and behavior and characteristics that you have to medicate or
Monitor and medicate and all that.
same with,
Yes.
same with my lips, same with my nose. So uh, you notice I have this. My nose just likes to run. It's just not going to cooperate. At least so far it hasn't wanted to cooperate with me. So these kind of uh,
Side effects, so to speak.
effects, yes, will cause possible rejection. So I do have to take more medication than maybe the average transplant patient. And unfortunately, one of the things about one of the challenges that we have as a person of color, we had about 18 different shades, the African American. No other person or ethnic group has so many different shades.
Yes.
So to find a match to match the color and the various DNA aspects is a little bit more challenging. That's why our organization is advocating for more people of color to participate, because I wouldn't have this space if it weren't for someone of color, obviously.
Yes. In other words, equity, right? Please tell us about that equity part and how you're paying this experience forward when it comes to people of color and, experiences like this, like you said, 18 different shades. No one even us as Black people, we don't even know that there are 18 different shades.
Well, they didn't either. We came up with that together.
Okay.
Hospital and the hospital, Brigham is the medical research center for Harvard University. So they had to come up with a chart as a result of deciding to have me as a candidate.
Yes.
So that came up, and they discovered it was like about 18 different shades. But the rejection, just to kind of clear this up a little bit, what the average surgeon, that there's not that many of them in terms of face transplant surgeons, but they are not used to, obviously, a Black person. So to identify external challenges or possible rejection, they're not familiar with it. For them, people that are white, they only have one or two shades, and they have pink, pale, red. They use the term light and dark, but basically they consider it three different shades. You and I would not consider that to be, but that's how they consider it. So what they look for, like in the New England Journal, they have things like look for white knuckles, blue lips, pale face, red face,
Yeah.
Pink face. But none of those signs apply to me at all. Now, you, as a Black woman, you'd be able to tell if I'm possibly ill, because you're used to that. I'm used to you. But anyone else, they can detect when I'm ill or not externally. It has to get blood and things like that, or I have to get extremely ill before they can realize, oh, this is septic, or this is some other kind of infection. So that's a part of the challenges. Now that I don't know if that really has a lot to do with equity, but where equity is applicable is not having and not allowing. It's not just not having, but they still will not allow people of color to be inventive.
To be what? To be what?
To have the ability or the liberty to invent and to create and to discover and to research. Have special grants to do these things. Now, who's going to fund it for you as a Black person?
Yes.
So there is no equity when it comes to things like that. You're still treated, no matter what the issue is. We are still treated as a Black man has been treated all along. What nurses want to work with you? See, how much time are they willing to spend, even in conversation with you, versus their own? So there's all kinds of ways that you will not get the same
attention
or treatment. Yeah. And they may not know that the same treatment that they're used to giving to someone else does not apply to you as because of your ethnic background, nor Asian, etc. So
Yes.
there is a lot of unnamed, unspoken nuances that affect us. Fortunately, Grace, I'm so glad that God, He doesn't just make up the difference, but He sets you in such a place where if He's before you, who can be against you?
Exactly.
What can form against you? It's not, oh, I'm not big, bad, and bold. It's He treats us like a child that has no way of handling situations. This because I'm a grown man doesn't mean that I can act grown uh, in a carnal way with others. I shouldn't act grown and carnal. I should act godly and a childlike. So the less I could be a child, the more I can be a child of his. I mean, what would you do for your child? Everything, anything. How many doors would you open? All the doors.
Yes.
So I'm fortunate because that's what God has done. He's opened those doors. He just didn't put cracks in the wall for me to squeeze through. See? And so my testament might be a little different, and sometimes it's going to be hard to believe because even with a person's faith or trust or belief, uh, it, 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 it cannot come close, as we mentioned before. Some things you have to know. And Job knew that his Redeemer lived. See, he stated it. I know my Redeemer lived.
I love your faith, because I believe that your faith too has carried you through this experience, Robert. We don't have much time left, but there's one word. I'm going to have to bring you back to the show, but I would love for you to give us one word of advice for anyone that is going through anything such as ours, cancer, accidents, to be able to go through survivorship. That person that is watching us right now, or those people watching us right now, what word of advice would you give to them, Robert?
Well, there's no way to get around not leaving this thought in mind, and that is trust your Heavenly Father, period.
Yeah.
Now, there's ways of getting there to have that kind of trust. See, we're still people, you as a mother or lady or wife, you want to hear from your husband. If you need to hear, I don't care how old or how long, hey, tell me each day. It won't hurt you to say you love me or whatever, do something. And that's the same way we are as children. Every day we have to make sure, parents make sure that their child is comforted, clean, and happy, and they do things that feel. Well, it's the same way as a child of God. We need assurance. See? And that's the more assurance now I feel that when that's built up, now I can trust you more. So when
Absolutely.
I say trust our Heavenly Father, I'm not saying, oh yeah, go out and trust. Go out and have faith, go out and believe. You can't do how you don't know how to do it. But especially in a holy way, you can do it naturally speaking. But have a godly, a holy trust, that takes experience over and over and over again. And that way, if you will, your faith is built up.
Yes.
I think Job said once, he said, neither have I gone back on the commandments of his lips, but I have esteemed his word more than my necessary food.
Absolutely, Robert. Thank you so, so much. We're getting to the end of our session, and I will also bring you back next month for us to continue this conversation. Okay? Sure. Thank you for coming on and for sharing your insights and for leaving us with that one word, trust God. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it, my dear audience and friends. You have been listening to Robert Chelsea, who happens to be the first Black person to receive a full face transplant ever since his accident. And he is now, a founder of a foundation that advocates for organ donation and equity. During his experience and going forward, we got to know that there are 18 different shades to a Black person's skin color. And it took a while for them to be able to find a donor with his exact match. So these are things that one talks about, one hears about, but never sees, you know. I'm so happy that he was able to come on and share his experience, talk about, drunk driving that put him in that position. Not him, but somebody else that rammed into his car. He talks about his plastic surgery and, the several surgeries he's had to undergo for the last 4.5 years. He talks about the difficulties, the side effects. You've listened to that in the show. You could go back to the video and rewatch. And how rejection has played a large part also in his trying to get better. He has to take shots. He has to take magnesium. He has to, take hydration infusions every other day. It's not easy, but we are so glad and thankful to God that he still has, his spirit up, and he's using his experience to pay it forward by helping others and, being involved in peer support groups. So, without much ado, we're signing off until the next episode. You've heard it from us, and you know what we ask of you. Do share our videos after you have subscribed if you haven't. Thank you so much, and this is Grace B signing out. Ciao, ciao. God bless.